Hello friends, so today's video is going to be a what's new in fantasy where we chat through some recent announcements in video games, books, adaptations, those sorts of things. And I want to start with what is likely the biggest, or at least it is kind of the biggest news for me as of late, which would be the expansion confirmation for Elden Ring. A lot of you have likely already heard about this expansion, but I still wanted to chat through with all of you about it just a little bit. I will get into a second what we know so far, which is sadly not that much, but we do know that it is going to be based in some of the demigods. I've actually been looking into a lot more of the lore of Elden Ring, so be on the lookout. I am going to do a book recommendations video for if you like Elden Ring, and very specifically if you like a lot of the lore around Elden Ring. But regardless, let's get into what we know so far about Shadow of the Erdtree. Most of the speculation for the DLC comes from the image that was released with the announcement, and if you go on the Elden Ring wiki, it says zooming into the image seems to show ashes coming down from the tree branches, so it may be both a post-burning scenario or pre-breaking scenario when the Golden Order was first corrupted. The bleeding Erdtree seems to be strangled by another twisted tree. Some speculated that this twisted tree is an extension of Godwyn's roots. The sky above the two trees is sunless, has an eclipse befallen the lands between. We can also see ethereal structures on the field. Could this be the ghostly tombs of the Haligtree soldiers who sacrificed themselves in a flash to guide Miquella's return? It also says, content-wise, an Elden Ring expansion would likely feature a considerable amount of content, and given the base size of the game, we would expect to see a completely new map covering about 1/3 of the area of the base game. Are you as excited as I am? I've been playing so much Elden Ring recently with my husband, with my friends. I've just had so much fun replaying it, but I didn't necessarily start over and do New Game Plus. I've just been kind of tagging along with my husband, and essentially we joke around that I'm his bodyguard and that I'm just kind of like the muscle and the brute strength, and he's been playing as a mage, and in general I've just been having so much fun. But when I go to play solo, I have been a little sad because there's just not much left. There's just so much that game has to offer, and I've kind of explored most of what there is at this point, and so I'm very, very ready to be getting something new. And I have high hopes that it's going to be along the lines of a Witcher expansion, where it is essentially a game in and of itself, and that it's massive, so that we can spend even more of our lives inside that game. After that, really quick, this is not going to take long to get through. Sadly, Wolf Among Us 2 has been announced that it will not be released in 2023, that it will be moved to a later date. I have been waiting for Wolf Among Us 2 for quite some time. This is a Telltale game, and there have been some ups and downs with Telltale for a while, but they did announce that they were going to be doing a Wolf Among Us 2 quite a while ago, and I was very excited about that. And it's kind of funny, it's about as opposite from Elden Ring as can be, where Elden Ring is just you want to throw your remote through the screen, and then you hardly even need a remote when you're playing Wolf Among Us, but still, I absolutely love that game. And I am bummed that it's going to be a little while before we hear more about this and before we can play it, but I hope that it'll be worth the wait. At least we have that information. And I'll say I would rather they take their time with it and do a good job than to put out an unfinished product, because that seems to be a little bit of a trend with video games in the last few years, and I don't want another Final Fantasy 15 situation. Switching now into some TV adaptations. Daredevil with Charlie Cox will be getting another season, and it has started its filming. The downside for me personally is that it is going to be very different in tone than what we saw with the Netflix adaptation. And whether you like the Marvel movies more or you like the tone of what was previously the Netflix adaptations, regardless, I liked that there were different tones from one to the other. I liked that if you were looking more for that family-friendly, fun, adventurous feel, you had the Marvel movies, and then if you were looking for something a little darker, a little grittier, you had the Netflix shows. And I liked that the shows took a little bit more time. There was more room to breathe. There was more room to get to know these characters. And I actually was quite a big fan of the adaptation on Netflix. I thought Charlie Cox was fantastic. I really liked the way in which the fight choreography was done. I liked the plot lines. I liked the characters. So I was a big fan, and I have been really not wanting actually another season if it was going to be over on Disney Plus, if they were going to change the tone. And when they had I don't want to say too much about the specific characters in case you don't want to know, but they had a character from the Netflix show, the previous Netflix show, who was a villain, show up in one of the Disney Plus shows. It was a show that I was not interested in. I saw clips of it. I was like, this isn't for me. And that particular character, I watched a clip of them and I was like, oh no, if this is what we're gonna get if they do another season of Daredevil, then I don't want another season of Daredevil, and I have a feeling that is what we're going to get. I'll get into the information here in a second, but I am very curious to know your thoughts. I don't mind that there are so many Marvel movies and TV shows that are family oriented and that are a little bit more PG, but I just wish we had more variety, and I'm a little tired of them taking some of their more mature characters or plot lines and watering them down. I wish we had that variety back. I'm curious how you feel about it. When asked before filming about the Disney Plus show, Charlie Cox said he hadn't read any of the scripts, but that he imagined this new show would be a little more in keeping with the Daredevil we met in She-Hulk, a bit less brooding, a bit more wisecracking and approachable. This has to be a reincarnation. It has to be different, otherwise why are we doing it? My opinion is this character works best when he's geared towards a slightly more mature audience. My instinct is that on Disney Plus, it will be dark, but probably won't be as gory. This next quote feels like it's for me. It says, Cox knows that there will be fans who would prefer the new show be more consistent with the Netflix series. I would say to those people, we've done that. Let's take the things that really worked, but can we broaden? Can we appeal to a slightly younger audience without losing what we've learned about what works? It's also projected that they will be filming from February to December, as it will be 18 episodes within this one season. Other adaptation news, we have Shadow and Bone Season 2 coming out this month. I could not be more excited. I really was quite impressed with Season 1. I think as far as actual adaptations go, in the way of how well they are adapting the source material, I think that Shadow and Bone has been one of the best fantasy adaptations we have gotten, and I cannot wait to see what they do with Season 2. The new cast members they've brought on, I think, are absolutely perfect. The casting continues to be next to none. I still can't think of another adaptation that has better casting than this one, and I'm very excited to see these new characters on screen. I'm also just excited to see how they build off of the foundation that they were able to put in place in Season 1. I'm excited to see what they do with the crows in Season 2, because from some of the trailers, it definitely seems like they are directly adapting some of the plot lines, but other plot lines continue to not actually exist within the books, and so I'm very curious to see the details with those new plot lines. They really surprised me with what they came up with Season 1 and how they were able to lock everything in together in ways that don't exist in the books. So I'm curious to see how they build off of that in Season 2, March 16th. I cannot wait. Beyond that, if you are a fan of Legends and Lattes, the cover was just revealed for another book that this author will be putting out. The name of the book is Bookshops and Bone Dust, and the synopsis says, when an injury throws a young, battle-hungry orc off her chosen path, she may find that what she needs isn't always what she seeks. The first book has definitely highlighted how much people are craving cozy fantasy, especially cozy fantasy within a traditional sword and sorcery type of setting. It seems like the second one is going to build off of that and do something very similar, just following different characters. And it also seems like it's following this trend of series of standalones where you don't necessarily have to read the books in order and the books are following different characters, but that they all have a similar tone and that you can pick up one or pick up the other. It doesn't really matter which one you get into, but they are all going to deliver on that cozy fantasy feel. It's also been announced recently that V.E. Schwab's The Fragile Threads of Power will be coming out in October of this year, and there is now a cover for it, which is what we have up on the screen right now. The cover itself is not matching the original Shades of Magic trilogy, and I was hoping that we would get a similar cover design to those because I actually really like the design of the originals. I'm okay with doing something different because it is a continuation. However, they did want to provide consistency to these new covers by redoing the old covers, and I don't really care for what the redone cover looks like. I'm very curious what your thoughts are on this new design. I actually did a video on my main channel where I went through a lot of different editions of the Shades of Magic. It has some of the most beautiful, breathtaking covers, foreign editions, special editions, and this might be my least favorite one that I've seen. So I am a little disappointed. It feels like they're redoing the cover just so that they can make money. They know people are going to purchase this new cover so that it will match the new ones. I'm not a fan of that, but I am very curious what all of you think of this. That's it for some recent fantasy announcements. I'm very curious if there's anything that you saw recently that you're really excited for. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.